Most people think a sales forecast is a revenue guess. It is not. It is a structured test of whether your business assumptions are actually true. A sales forecast is an estimate of the revenue your business expects to generate over a specific future period. A month, a quarter, a year perhaps. It is built from three things: your current pipeline, historical sales patterns, and the assumptions you are making about how both will behave. The last part is what most people skip. They pull a number from last year, add a growth percentage, and call it a forecast. That is a guess with a spreadsheet wrapped nicely around it. A real forecast forces you to answer specific questions. How many deals are in your pipeline right now? What is your typical close rate? How long does a deal take to convert? And when you write things like that down, your revenue estimate becomes something you can interrogate. And that connects directly to decisions you are already making. Things like when to hire, whether cash flow will cover the next quarter, or how much capacity of product to hold. And here is the honest limitation: forecasts are not accurate by default. For smaller businesses without years of clean historical data, precision is rarely achievable early on. But even with good data, pipeline deals often slip or fall away entirely for unknown reasons. But that's not the point. Businesses that forecast tend to plan better than those that do not. Not because their numbers are right, but because the discipline makes their assumptions visible. When something goes wrong, they have a baseline, and they can ask, was the pipeline too thin? Or did our close rate drop? And they are learnable questions. Without a forecast, you're just reacting. So here's a practical rule. Build your forecast, label what you know versus what you are estimating, and revisit it monthly. Markets shift, deals slip, new pipeline comes in. A forecast you update is a planning tool. One you set and forget is just a number somewhere on a slide. And now there is a distinction worth making. A forecast and a projection are not the same thing. A projection is a static extrapolation. You take a trend and extend it forward over time. It does not change unless you manually rebuild it. A forecast is an assumption-led and regularly revised number. You update it as new information arrives. A deal closes early, a customer churns, a new market opens. Only one of those helps you learn and adapt. If your planning process produces a number you never revisit, you made a projection. And projections do not tell you when your assumptions have stopped being true. The biggest forecasting mistake is treating it as a one-time exercise. A forecast built in January and ignored until December is not a planning tool, it's a historical document. The second mistake is confusing optimism with assumptions. If your next quarter's number assumes every deal closes on time and at full value, that's not an assumption, that's a wish. A usable forecast applies a realistic close date, accounts for things like slippage, and flags where uncertainty is highest. So here's a rule of thumb. If you cannot explain the assumptions behind your next quarter's revenue number in 2 minutes, you don't have a forecast. You have hope. Start simple. Take your current pipeline, apply your actual close rate from, say, the last 6 months, adjust for deal timing, and write down what you're assuming. Now you have a forecast. It's imperfect, but it's interrogable. And an imperfect forecast you update monthly is worth far more than a precise number you can't explain. If that was of value, subscribe to the channel for one real business question answered every video. For the same clarity in writing, the website and newsletter is 5minutebusiness.com.